Welcome to Rug Bogues. This is the Basketball Series, episode 58 and counting. Myself, Andrew Bogut, Mike Procopio at Hoop Consultants. What is going on?
Bogues, what are you up to, brother? Any news going on with you besides you guys rolling through the NBL?
Ooh, we're rolling. We'll get to that a little later, but we are rolling. The Sydney Kings are up and firing, 8 straight, so we'll get to that shortly. Not a whole lot. Got on a plane again for the first time in 2 months, so that was good to travel down to Melbourne and see the Sydney Kings get a big win. So I saw that, and other than that, not a whole lot. Kids sick, not sick, every other week. Just starting school, so that's fun. I'm just trying to avoid all the plagues they bring back from school. But yeah, man, it's been good. Basketball's been good, and the NBA has had no shortages of bullshit to talk about this week. That's for sure. Oh
yeah. I'm interested in seeing your thoughts on some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. It's always something, brother.
Never a dull moment. Let's start off with our team of the weeks. This week was a little bit of a tough one to pick, in my opinion. But my honourable mentions. Look, we've got a fan that is a big Boston fan. That's a listener. So if you're listening, I'm putting Boston in my honourable mentions. But we do it week to week. So Boston have been rolling. We've given them a lot of credit over the last month. But they're not in my team of the week. They are in my honorable mentions. Charlotte's up there. They had a pretty good week. Milwaukee had a good week. Miami, Dallas, and Phoenix. But I'm going to go with your former team of the week, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 3 straight. So arguably one of the better weeks out of all the teams on that list. They are balling, man. They are playing very, very well. One thing I've noticed, and even Beverly's commented on it, where he's tried to get Cat out of his shell and get him to start firing back and really taking onus of that team, and he has. You're seeing Cat be more vocal, he was always passionate, but he's showing it much more. He's going back at other guys. He even did the Westbrook's air ball, looking up in the stands, the trolling, which he never would have done before. I don't think it was a confidence thing. It just wasn't him, but he's starting to come out of his shell. And I think his teammates are embracing it. I think Beverly's a great, great tool for the Timberwolves, those young guys. I think they need that gritty veteran. He's annoying as hell if he's not on your team, but you love him when he's on your team. He's been perfect for him. I'm loving the way they're playing. Edwards is coming along. Russell's just quietly going about his business. They've got a lot of young guys there that are, every other night a different young guy steps up for him. So I'm liking what they're doing, Pro. So I agree. I think you had them on a week or two ago, maybe last week. But yeah, they're my team of the week this week, Pro.
Yeah, you prick. I had them too. So I've been scrolling through fucking NBA.com as you were talking. And I don't want to, because I had both your teams. So now I'm going to pivot with this.
Oh, you can go then. Hey, we can agree to agree.
No. It was great. Look, I think I hit on them last week, as you said. And look, I love those guys. They're playing great, and it's great to see. I'll go with Philly, though. I was going to go with Miami, but I think they got blown out, yesterday or something. So I'm going to go with Philly. They beat Dallas. They beat Cleveland on the road. They beat Dallas at home yesterday, and they lost to Denver by 4. Trying to get through the whole Harden thing and figure everything out. But hey, they're playing well. They got a good supporting cast playing around those guys. And, it's not a team I really love rooting for, but look, I had about 8.3 seconds to pick a team. And I figured that, I downloaded the game last night and watched their game against Dallas, and they look pretty good. So Embiid's killing it, man. I think Embiid's I like Luka for MVP, but he missed a bunch of games. So I don't know if you can give it to him. I've liked Durant as well, but you can't deny the numbers that fucking Embiid's putting up. He's,
I've got it down to Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. That's it. And I think it's I honestly, Embiid's having a fantastic year, but honestly, I don't think you could argue with either of those 3 getting it. That's how close the race is, in my opinion. Giannis has been forgotten about to an extent because he's had MVPs. Jokic had it last season. So I think Embiid's kind of the new shiny toy. But in my opinion, I think all three of them and all three of their teams are balling. And back to my point about Jokic, like, you put him, on other rosters that some of these other guys have, they're dominating. You put Embiid on Denver. I don't know. Does it fit the same way? Obviously, different systems. But and then Giannis, Milwaukee's had a hell of a month and a half, 2 months. So I agree. I think Embiid's having a hell of a season. It's gonna be tough to pick, man. It's gonna be real tough to pick for those beat writers and voters on the MVP this season.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stand put with the team that you have. So you'll announce it, but I had the same one. I think I'm not really big fans of the team that not right now. I love them. I loved them during the season. I still think they're a really good team, but they didn't really have a great week. So I'll let you announce it.
Yeah, the team of the week, the bad, poor, weak team were the Chicago Bulls. They've had a bad month. They have had some injuries. Yeah. We've spoken about this a few times. I've actually got an interesting stat on them in the useful, useless segment coming up later. But look, 2-8 in their last 10. They've lost 3 straight. Becoming very clunky and predictable to an extent. I mean, DeMar DeRozan was, it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago we spoke about him as starting to maybe form into that top 3, top 4 MVP discussion. I think it's starting to become a bit predictable now. The NBA is a 3-point shooting league. They don't shoot enough of them by analytic standards. But yeah, I think they've started to just become predictable and clunky. Look, some injuries, the lineups have changed a little bit, but you can only have that excuse for so long. And I go back to the Denver Nuggets, I go back to the Milwaukee Bucks earlier on in the season, that they all had to deal with injuries in different stages. They didn't really have a 2-8, last 10. So yeah, they'll be okay. But yeah, some interesting stats later on them. Pro, what do you see with them?
Yeah, the same thing. And what's going on with Lonzo Ball? Have you heard anything on him? Or what's going on with his?
They just said there was a setback, and it's going to be longer than predicted. So that was really only the update. The only update they released.
I think he's a huge loss for them. And look, they've lost Patrick Williams early in the year, and I really like Patrick Williams. I think he's a Norman Powell, sort of starter kit. I think he's a really good player. And, they've had some injury issues to start with, but then they were rolling. I think, look, say what you want about the Ball family, Lonzo Ball, Melo Ball, the dad, the other kid from UCLA, the fat kid. And, Lonzo Ball is a huge, the brother, right? He's a huge part of their team. He's a huge part of their team. I don't like he's one of the better passers in the game. Not the best passer or anything, but he's got great vision. He sets those guys up. It's a lot less work. Now, Kobe White is good, for them. And I like Kobe. I think he's more of a scorer than a distributor, and he doesn't really have the vision Ball has. He's a different type of god. He could, score and pick and rolls and make shots and things. And let's not forget they're missing Caruso, and they've missed him a little bit, but. Yeah, they just got to get back on track. They got a good team and they got a great coach. It's just that they're struggling right now. They're trying to find their own. I think they're going to limp into the playoffs. But if they can put together a solid 3 weeks, 2.5 to 3 weeks at some point before the playoff starts, even 2 weeks, I think they'll be good. As long as you're rolling going into the playoffs, you're good. You could be struggling. Look, every team's going to have their struggles. And then every team's going to be, some teams are going to be great at some point, untouchable. I'd rather be like limping in right now and then hit your stride, getting into the playoffs and you're good, rather than hitting it like 10 in a row right now and then for some reason lose it. I think injuries have really hurt them, to be honest, and it's really nipped away at them. And with Ball and Caruso and Williams, and they lost a lot of firepower and still done very, very well. I mean, I'm looking forward if it's a Boston-Chicago first round of the playoffs. That's going to be a really good one to watch. But, yeah, I mean, right now, and they were sitting at like 1-2 a lot of the season. Now they're at 5, and they're only a game away from Cleveland. Cleveland's a game back. So it'll be interesting. But, yeah, they got to – Bogues, have you ever been through that? Well, I'm sure you have in some of the stops you've had, Milwaukee and whatnot, but even Golden State. Did you have that where there was a funk where you're just like you were good at one point during the season and then like maybe midway through or right after that All-Star break, you start really struggling as a team? And what did you do to get through it? Like what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no real glaring ones. Like Milwaukee, we'd always just generally start poorly and then have to catch our tail. That was kind of the MO when I was in Milwaukee. We'd start 500 or below, and then it seemed like, hey, we're almost there. We're almost in the 8. We're almost 7. We're in that, and that's what I had to deal with mainly in Milwaukee. With Golden State, I think early on, maybe the first season or two that I was there, it was kind of like we'd show spurts for a month and then have a horror trip, right? Or have a horror homestand or lose a couple of games we shouldn't lose. And it was just about you have to go through those battles. Like you have to go through that. Every championship team goes through it. Whether it was 3 years before they won the championship, like you look at what Milwaukee went through with, Giannis and getting him acclimatized in the NBA and playing through his mistakes. It's similar to what OKC's gone through. I think they'll be at that pointy end eventually, 4 or 5 years down the track with all the talent that they have. But I think you have to go through those battles as much as they suck. I think with the Bulls, I think you bring up a valid point that I'll probably elaborate on a little bit more is I think they were probably their start when they started first and second in the East and they were rolling. I think they just jumped out of the gun really well, and we forgot that they weren't that good the year before. And even though they signed a lot of talent, people questioned how it was going to work. They were still a new team, and I think maybe we expected too much too soon from them. I really do. I think they're, probably a 4, 5, probably even less, maybe a 5 to 8. Realistically, that's where I think they'll end up. With the way they're playing and everything. But, they're in 5 right now. I think that's probably a fair evaluation of where they are as a team. I think we probably, probably overthought things thinking that they're going to be a top 2 or 3 team in the East, right? And I think because it was just to a testament of them jumping out of the gate. Philly was banged up. Ben wasn't playing there, so they were down. Milwaukee started horridly. Remember, they were almost out of the 10. The Celtics started terribly. Miami have been consistent pretty much the whole time. But, yeah, you look at those. So you look at 76ers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. They've all now shot out of a cannon, and they're starting to peak at the right time. Whereas I think the Bulls peaked out of the gate, and then now they're trying to hold on for dear life, to hold on to a playoff spot, at least for home court, which doesn't look like they're going to get. But I think that's a valid point. I think, would you agree that, looking at them now, I think still it's a good season for them still to be between 5, 6, 7 for them. I think is a good season, but it feels like it isn't because they were so high early on, right?
Yeah, I think they are like I had them in the beginning of the year. I had them anywhere from 3 to 3 or 4 or 5. I thought they were going to be really good, but those injuries, man, and I think the injuries have really hurt them. I agree. Without the guys, look, it looks like Ball's going to be. I don't know what Ball's going to be like in the playoffs, even if they get him back, right? They could get Caruso back. Williams is going to come back soon. He just had a stint in the D League and the G League. So I think they're they had to play almost perfectly to play at a high level 2, 3, 4 anyway. And then you take away rotation. You take away a starter, 2 starters, and you take away a rotation guy in Caruso. Your starter was Williams and Ball, and you take Caruso away. It's not like Phoenix or something like that that's really deep and really good and a finals contender. You have a team that was good, but they needed everything to be flying on, shooting on all cylinders and firing up. And it just missing 3 guys out of the rotations, a really tough, a tough blow to your midsection with this stuff. And I think it's really tough on them. And yeah, I agree. Now I think they're probably going to be closer to 5. I think they'll finish off 5. I think they could still get a little bit hot, going into the playoffs. But like I said, I think that Celtics Bulls, if the Celtics stay where they're at, if those guys meet in the playoffs, it'll be pretty entertaining.
That'll be a fantastic series to watch. Yeah, for sure. A few injuries. Steph Curry. Now, I don't know what's going on. I haven't spoken to him, so this is just my assumption, but I think it's worse than they're letting on. There was a pretty bad injury against the Celtics. Now, a separate issue with that, Marcus Smart dove for a loose ball. Looking at the replay, his eyes were strictly on the ball. He took out Steph's ankle. Steph heard it, but then didn't think it was that bad. Tried to jog it out and couldn't even run. He has had issues with that ankle Hasn't had issues recently, but when I first got there were big question marks about whether his ankles would hold up for a long-term career. He's overachieved on that for sure, because there was an 18-month period where you just a smallest tweak and he'd be out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And I knew how frustrated he was trying to get back on track with the Warriors and rebuild and what they were doing. But they've just the wording on what they've announced. They said no further updates, and they're going to reevaluate in 2 weeks. So for them not to really release anything, they're keeping their cards close to their chest, and by all means, most smart clubs do that. You read between the lines, and if it was a small-time injury, they'd say, yeah, he's going to be out 8 to 10 days. It's just a small tweak, and then we'll progress him and see how it responds. The fact that it just says 2-week reevaluate, I think this is going to be a month plus at minimum, and it could be even more severe than that. And they sustain losing Steph, the Warriors, better than anyone for small spurts. So, i.e., we when I was there, we sustained it. He was out for a playoff series almost, I think, against Portland, and we sustained that. He came back game 5 and we won the series. So the Warriors can do it for small spurts. My worry is if it's 2-3 months, that's tough to sustain. That's one of the best players in the game, and then all of a sudden now the pressure falls on Klay Thompson, who's trying to come back from an injury already, and Draymond Green, who just came back from injury. So there are some worrying times down there in the Bay, Pro.
Bogues, I think this is going to be a really tough one to come back from. It did look bad. I know Kerr was sticking up for his guy during the game and all that, but I don't think it was intentional. It didn't look so, but who do we to guess? We're just guessing, right? But it just looked like it was one of those plays that it didn't go their way, and end up getting hurt and it rolled on it and whatnot. But it's going to be tough. There, look, Thompson's not himself yet. Wiggins has been up and down. Draymond's been hurt. He's just coming back. That's a lot.
Pool's been better. Pool's been much better. You've seen a little bit of Moses Moody. You've seen a little bit out of Kuminga. Look, I think that this could be great for the young guys to sort of play more minutes. I'm into that, but like losing Steph at that age, at this juncture of the season, I mean, he's not playing at a high level like he usually is anyway, with his shooting and things, considering, where he's been the last few. But you get hurt like that with that ankle going to the playoffs, it's going to be really tough. But look, they've had a fight through all year, without Klay, and then they lost Draymond, and then Klay comes back. It's been a tough one. But look, the young guys have played a little bit. I think they've gotten better. Guys like Poole's gotten better. Peyton's been great. Moody's had a couple of games here and there. I guess I read today. Did you read there where Wiseman's his knee swelled up or whatnot? He's had a little bit of a setback. Yeah.
So.
Setback, yeah. So they brought him back to the Bay, back from the G League team, and they're going to, I don't think that'll be a severe out, but if it's swollen up already with a load lift, that's a concerning out as well. And they're short, big man wise as well as it is.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, that's a definite blow to them. They probably expected him to play a little bit, heading into it and heading into the playoffs and things. So it stinks that it happened when it did. And I'll tell you what, though, Utah's only 3 back and Dallas is only 4 back. So they're probably licking their chops too, where they'll have a good shot at those guys if Curry's out or is not at 100%. It's pretty close in my opinion, it's still pretty close between Golden State, Utah, Dallas, and stature. Not exactly where they're going to end up, but like if they met each other in the playoffs, like it'll be a close series, any 3 of those teams, even Memphis. So I think it really puts a different look on the West as far as playoff implications if Curry can't get to 100%. You get a couple of these teams knocking on their door as it is. So it'll be an interesting first round of the playoffs and going. Actually, no, in the next 10 games where everything stacks up, and then heading into the playoffs where they're going to be.
Yeah, and back to your point about Kerr, for those that don't know and didn't see, he blew an absolute gasket. He called a timeout, I believe, and started yelling at Marcus Smart during the timeout, saying it was dirty because they obviously had film coaches showing the clip during the game live in play. I I think Kerr's frustration probably lies with the fact that their best player's just gone down, and they're probably going to have to. He's going to have to come up with some more innovative plays and things to do and ways to win games. You take away even he's not shooting the ball as well. You take away that there goes a shitload of your floor spacing again. Clay obviously will keep him honest, so will Jordan Poole. But then with Draymond out there and a few other guys, that shrinks your floor spacing. So big out there. Even if Steph's not shooting well, it hurts your offensive flow and spacing. I don't think it was dirty. I looked at the replay numerous times. Eyes were on the ball. And Marcus Smart's a guy that, he has form. He dives for loose balls. If the ball is loose, he's going to get on the floor. He's the first one to the floor. And a lot of times you say the first one to the floor is the guy that doesn't get hurt. That's usually, football metaphor or a basketball metaphor for a reason. And yes, it is unfortunate. It is a contact sport, and you just hate to see it. You don't want it to happen. But I think Steve's probably wrong on this one. But he had to do that though. At the same time, he has to go to bat for his player. I think the players respect that he's gone. Right or wrong, I'm going to bat for you. And he's coached Marcus Smart too with the Team USA. So they have a relationship. That's what was funny about it. But we'll watch his space. Let's just hope. I hope Steph. You always hope every team's healthy. Like whether you're. I'm not really a fan of one team in particular. I mean, I've obviously got a soft spot for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Golden State Warriors for obvious reasons. But you never want to. I just love to see great basketball, and come playoff time, I'm one of those fans that wants everyone healthy. Even if it's a team I don't like, I want them healthy so I can see them go mano a mano with the other good team. Right? You never want to see a player missing here or there or different series, because then there's always the what ifs. But another injury pro, Ben Simmons has re-injured his back. He's had some issues with the L4, L5 region, which is your lower back for those that don't know. Pressure's mounting, pro. Look, they're limping into a playoff run. The Brooklyn Nets are. They're starting to play better, and they're getting there when Kyrie plays on the road, that is. But they're playing better. But limping into a playoff run that should be a potential championship run isn't good. So with Ben Simmons and his well-noted mental health issues, I think the pressure has a big part to do with that. Everything that happened in Philly, now you get to Brooklyn, as being part of a decent-sized trade. When I went from Milwaukee to Golden State, I was so eager to get back on the floor for Golden State, and I was hurt when I got there. And I felt not the pressure. I wanted to get out there. I want to show you guys what you traded for, all that kind of stuff. So I think Ben probably feels that pressure is going to mount the longer he waits. And for a team like Brooklyn, who should be going into a deep playoff run, you'd hope he gets some games under his belt. Brooklyn holds out hope for Ben to play a game or two pre-playoffs. That doesn't sound too positive, but you don't want to. Like I said, they're potentially going into a conference finals, hopefully, or potential finals with the way their roster's built if they can all play. If you're Ben Simmons, you don't want to be limping into that, because that pressure's going to mount 10 times as worse, because then you're coming off an injury, you're trying to come back to form, then everyone's going to start questioning why you aren't shooting jumpers, all that's going to then go into one big ball of pressure. And I mean, it's a bad blow, and it's uncontrollable for him, but it just sucks, because I think it would have been nice for him to get out there right now, get these good games, bad games out of the way, get through that injury, get back to some form and conditioning, and then bang, surge in the playoffs. But it doesn't look like it's going to be the case, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA, man, sometimes that just sort of creeps up on you. Injuries or things happen unexpected, and you got to get ready. You got to be ready for it all. And it's unfortunate because, they gave up a big asset to get Ben, and, big asset forced his way out of town, and they got Ben. And, I'll tell you what, they are looking pretty good without him. But, it's sort of like what Philly was dealing with before the trade. Like, they were doing this basically with Steph Curry and Embiid, and like they were doing pretty well. And you're like, wow, imagine you have like $40 million sitting on your sideline, and like he's not saying he's in the bench in street clothes, and I don't think he's with the team, but like they're doing this, and they're at the cusp of being pretty good without that max level player. So the same thing now happens at Brooklyn. You've got, you're doing this sometimes with Kyrie, sometimes not, and then you're doing it with Durant, and then you're doing it basically with Drummond and Curry and whatnot, and you don't have Ben, Simmons. It's it's something that they just have to be ready for, and it's unfortunate because I think everybody wants to see him play. Yeah, we all give him shit about like what he did, and well, his whole past and of these little antics and things and this negotiation and sitting out. But you want to see the guy play. You want to see good basketball. You want to see, Brooklyn, see what they have with those three guys, let them play together a little bit before the playoffs, because you want a really big playoff push, especially if they were ever to get a Brooklyn versus Philly series. You want everybody healthy and sort of at 100%. But yeah, it sucks. But what do you think? Like, what's your gut telling you as far as the chances of him playing at all, this season, playoffs, whatnot?
I think he plays. He has to. I think the pressure's there. But when you're dealing with backs, I'm a guy that's had back issues. They have a mind of their own sometimes. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and it's freed up. You're like, oh, shit, it's feeling better. You got some good treatment, right, and then you start feeling better. And then all of a sudden you do something, you pick something up, or you pick your kid up or play with your dog, and then it goes out again. That's just so he's going to have to deal with that. But I think he'd want to get back out there. I don't think he's going to, especially with KD and Kyrie, somewhat Kyrie. I mean, 50% of Kyrie, we'll be looking at him like, hey, man, like, we made that trade for you. We need you out on the court if we're going to go out there. Like, the clock's ticking for Brooklyn. Like, they missed their chance by a foot of Kevin Durant to get to the finals, and they're getting no younger. There's always an injury away. There's always a trade away. So, the time is now for Brooklyn Nets. Their roster's built for today, and that's kind of probably the frustrating thing. But, yeah, I'll just be interested to see if he tries to get a game or two in, and I just know, like I said it last week, limping into the playoffs is not a good thing, because those games, the intensity and the level just goes up. You want to limp into some games, mid-April or early April that are in Minnesota or Memphis, and it's just one of those games, game 77, and those guys aren't playing as hard. You can kind of get your rhythm and get a nice feel, right? You're not going to do that in the playoffs. It comes at you much faster. So that's my only concern. But I hope, and shout out to also Andre Drummond, man. He's played really well.
Played great.
I've got to give him credit. He was basically a throw-in into that trade to make the salaries match up and whatnot. And Seth Curry too. But Drummond's actually provided a really good role for him, and he's starting for him and putting up some big numbers, had some big double-doubles, some blocks. And so he was kind of, I wouldn't say he was out of league, but no, he was a backup for the last couple of seasons. Like, and people questioning, he's not a starting big, this, that, but I think he's reinserted himself into the conversation of being a pretty decent, solid starting big man, and stayed professional throughout. So a shout out to him. But to Kyrie Irving, you got to be the troll of the century with what he did. I loved it. I think it just pointed out the hypocrisy of everything going on right now in the world. For those not familiar, I'm sure most of you would be. The Brooklyn Nets are a private business, private organization. They have mandates where their employees in New York City need to be double vaccinated to perform their duties or their employment in the city. So Kyrie can obviously play on road games. Number one, what's bad about the rule is visiting team players are allowed to escape the mandate if they're a visiting team. It's just for home teams. So I guess Kyrie hasn't been playing home games. The mandate was lifted a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure exactly when, don't quote me on it, but the mandate was lifted for fans and people in the arena. So you could go and watch the Brooklyn Nets play without having to show your papers. You're free to enter. So Kyrie Irving decided to buy a courtside seat and watch his team play. And it was perfectly legal. There was nothing wrong with it. It caused a lot of hoorah because it showed the blatant hypocrisy that he was actually sitting with 18,000 people, or however many people were at the game, watching his very own team that he's not allowed to play with. And he got in some trouble for going back in the locker room because he was deemed, which is just nonsense in itself. The NBA fined the Brooklyn Nets for allowing Kyrie Irving into a clean zone, the clean zone where the players are, because they're all double vaccinated and in the protocol. Fined him $50,000, and then the very next day, Kyrie Irving is at training with the same guys, and he's on a bus with the same guys, and he's on a team playing with the same guys, and he's playing in road games with the same guys. So I loved it. I thought it was the ultimate troll, and it just pointed out some hypocrisy. I'm not sure what your thoughts were.
There's never a dull moment in the league. I'll tell you that. It's
ballsy.
It's pretty. Yeah. I mean, that's him though. I mean, it's not, I thought it was great. I loved it. Look, if it's a mandate of the city or the state or however you're going to do it, right? And no one, no visiting, the same thing with visiting team, members can't do it. That's one thing. But if you're allowing visiting teams to play and participate, and your own team, your own player can't do it, that's crazy. To me, it's nuts to be able to do that. Like, that's where, like, look, I'm always about following the rules, regardless if you like them, you don't like them, whatever. I just sort of, hey, if that's the rule, we're going to do it. But the rule, you got to question that rule, though, of allowing visiting team members and fans to come in, but your own people that work for you can't. That's idiotic to me. And it doesn't, like, my big thing on logic is, does it make sense? You may not like it, but if it makes sense, even if you don't like it, I see it. But this makes no fucking sense. And it's hilarious to me, but it's just fucking tomfoolery. It's like, literally the circus music should be playing 24/7 on this shit. Cause it's moronic, to be honest with you.
I liked it. Good job, Kyrie. Keep it up. But yeah, pointed out, I mean, Kevin Durant then made some comments, which I don't get into too much, but went at the mayor saying that he just wants attention. The mayor said, no, I don't. Kyrie just needs to be vaccinated, then he can play. I just wonder, Pro, what do you think? Do you think this is going to – I think now the fact that Kevin Durant has made those comments and the mayor's actually clapped back at Kevin Durant, and then Kevin Durant again followed up and said, oh, maybe my comments were insensitive, that he's called out the mayor. I think he might stand strong now, even for the playoffs. Do you think there's any chance that mandate gets waived for the playoffs?
I don't know, Bogues. Things sometimes take so much time to change, even though it shouldn't. I mean, even though if you say, you know what, we just need to open it up. But I've heard a lot of rumblings of it opening up, Bogues, but I haven't heard anything concrete about them actually talking about it, them actually meeting about it. I'm not talking about the NBA. I'm talking about the city itself, or the state, what have you. And I don't know where this is going to go. You got to think that they would, just to give them a chance to win the championship. Especially, like, it's not like everyone else is closed and they're going to open. Everything is open. Everything's open. And you might as well say, I mean, to do that, it'll give you good press. What's that these days? There's nothing good fucking in the press in the last fucking 3 years to read about. But this gives you some good press. You got a team that could win it. You're going to let this guy play. But then again, there's like, you got to stand your ground. I don't know, Bogues. Political shit to me, I don't understand. But I don't know. What's your gut telling you?
I don't think they do it for basketball reasons, because if they do it strictly for that, there's going to be a lot of angry people that had to get the double dose for their employment, and they're going to flip out at the mayor then. So I think he's in a tough position, and I don't think he can just do it strictly for a basketball player. So I just wonder, I'm just, as an NBA fan, you just wonder. Oh,
so if they do it, Bogues, you're telling me they'll only do it for basketball, they won't do it for everybody?
That's what that's the thing. So there's all these people that were mandated the last year or so that had to do it to work in New York City, same as Kyrie does. So if they just waive it for a basketball team, they have to do it for everybody. And then even if they did waive it now, these people that have already got it are then there's going to be some blowback, because they're going to say, hang on a second, I had to do it. Why is Kyrie any different? So then it splits the community, and then that can hurt the mayor's voting, right? In the long term. So that's the other thing you got to think of politically. So that's where it becomes political games. It's no longer about people's health. Let's make that clear. This is no longer about people's health. Like, we've made that clear. When you can sit in an arena with 18,000 people, but you can't go with your team, but then the very next day you can, it's not about health. It's about you didn't conform or punishing you. And now it's become political that if we now drop these mandates, people are going to think it's because Kyrie's an athlete and he's special, and everyday Joes are then going to be mad at the mayor. So that's my read on it. So the mayor's in an interesting position. That's why I'm wondering, the playoffs are 2 months away, or just under, or not even a month really to the day. So I'm interested to see, what happens, because, for Brooklyn to have a chance, he needs to play home games. Unless he comes out and drops 60 every road game, then maybe. But it's going to be interesting, because he's a pleasure to watch too when he's in that mood that he was in Orlando and a few other games. He's tough to stop. So hopefully that all gets sorted out. But I won't hold my breath. But I did like the troll. Devin Booker clapped back at Anthony Davis. Did you see Anthony Davis' comments, by the way?
I did not. What's going on with this?
So apparently he said something along the lines of the Suns would not have won if he was not hurt that season. That series where the Suns went to the finals last season. And he said, we know that, they know that, they got away with one. Now, you know, and then they asked Devin Booker about it, and his quote was, quote, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. So if the word if was a fifth of drink, we'd all be drunk. And he has a point. This is, every team deals with it. When we beat Cleveland, you know, Kyrie was hurt. He was out. K-Love was banged up. It was what it was. We won that series. The following season, Draymond suspended. I was banged up. Iguodala was basically, you know, could barely walk from back spasm. We were banged up. So it's just the way it goes. It's the luck of the bounce. The healthier team at the tail end of the season definitely has more of the luck fall their way. But I think it was pretty low by Davis and disrespectful of what the Phoenix Suns have become. If Phoenix right now were in seventh, maybe he'd have a case. You'd be like, okay, maybe they got lucky that year. I think they've got enough runs on the board, enough points on the board right now to say that they're a solid team and they should be commended the way they've bounced back. Monty Williams has done a hell of a job there. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Bridges, like they're really, really good, right? So I think it takes credit away from what they've built there. If this was a lucky thing, it would be a one and done type thing, and it's not the case. So I thought the comments were just a little bit lowbrow, no pun intended for Davis. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, a lot of people look. You know how that if stuff. You know, you can say if forever on all that stuff. Like 2010, I was directly involved with the Celtics Lakers series, and Celtics should have won that series. And then if Perkins doesn't go down with a torn ACL, then he goes down a torn ACL game 5 and game 6. I'm sorry, and then they were going to win that in 6, and then the Lakers ended up winning, and the Lakers had no answer. Bannon was hurt, and all that. So there's that series. There's everything that we just mentioned. And look, you could say the same thing about should the Lakers have won the championship if they didn't have a bubble. You know, if they were just regular series and no pandemic, do they win a championship? Probably not. But who cares? It is what it is. I never asterisked anything. You know, that's just what it is. But yeah, you know how it is. You know, people pop off at the mouth, and you know they like saying stuff. They get bored. They like saying shit to the media. It's a big story and all that. But you know, that if shit, I don't pay any attention to it because it's just, you know, I don't know, maybe he's hurting from the series and you know, maybe it still hurts him to this day and he just wanted to get it off his chest and mention it. But yeah, all that shit, you don't really have time for that shit. It's just, it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. But, you know, it's the NBA that, you know, they're covered 24/7. There's only so many sound bites and cliches you can give the reporters. You got to give them something sometimes. So, you know, he took his shot and, hey, it is what it is. Booker claps back, all that, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, I just think it was low. I think it was low considering what they've built, you know, and Phoenix have done it the right way.
They're hell of a team.
Yeah,
they're hell of a team.
So,
yeah.
Thibs will be back next season, reported. Yeah. Interesting. There were some rumblings mid-season that they weren't too happy with him. So, what you'd probably have your ear to the ground on this one better than I do. What's going on?
I think there's just a lot of bad press from sort of all that stuff being leaked out about, you know, Tibbs while he was coaching and, you know, the front office sort of second guessing him and throwing him under the bus and all that. And I mean, the season's not over yet. There's a lot of lip service about that, but you know how that is. That could go, you know, if they lose like 8 in a row, or if they make the playoffs and they get, you know, the play in and they lose first game and then they're out. I mean, that they could still fire the guy. It's nothing, you know, I don't take anything that anyone says in the NBA for gospel because you know how that fucking league is. It's just, you never know. Like they say one thing. I like the guy. I like Tibbs. He cleans you up. He's one of those guys that can clean you up, that could sort of get your guys to play like pros. Sort of like Larry Brown at the end of his career. Like Larry Brown is a hell of a coach. But you have to deal with a lot of shit with Larry Brown. You have to deal with, you know, him calling GMs over your GM's head to make trades with your team without talking to the GM. And like a lot of the other shit with Tibbs, he's going to play everybody crazy minutes. Everybody's going to practice and have to, you know, lace up and sort of, and tape up for shoot arounds, and he's going to go hard, and he's going to be a grouch, and he's going to, and people are going to get sick of him, and then he'll probably wear his way out and probably get fired in how many years. But, I don't think it's really right to sort of have that stuff in the media about a month ago, when you're throwing him under the bus. I mean, you knew who he was. He's been like this his whole career, and I think he's a good basketball coach. I think that team's a far ways away of being really good. And I think that those young guys that they still have that still need a guy like that in their life coaching wise, because I think he does it the right way and he really teaches them how to be a pro. Now, once they get cooking, maybe those guys will start saying, all right, I'm tired of this. We need another voice. But I think it's good to have him back. I think that look, Randall's not ready. He's too inconsistent. They've had a lot of injuries with Rose and Nerlens. They've dealt with some injury stuff. And just the team hasn't played well. And it's not all Tibbs' fault. The team's just not playing well. It's just, I'm glad he's going. I hope they stay true to form and they actually bring him back, because I think he deserves to be back. I just don't think
this is the thing. Like, they put an announcement out. It's like, who are you getting anyway? Who's going to go out there?
Yeah.
Who's out there next season? Like, maybe
LeBron player coach?
Maybe Rich Paul coach. But my point is, like, you're not going to do better than him. Like, yeah, okay, he like that whole wear out your welcome shit. It's like, maybe not. Maybe there's a lot of uncoachable players on the team. Maybe there's a lot of guys that don't want to buy in. Maybe there's guys that don't want to buy into that system because he plays a system that's kind of the opposite of what they think they are. There's a lot of different things that go on. And then you've got probably a GM that maybe thinks he's a genius that wants to coach. So that's where, like, running a club is so hard. And being an owner of a club, like I see it, it's like you want to give feedback. I'm cognizant of giving feedback to, coach at times or to the GM, but I'm also cognizant of not having them do what I want, right? Like, if they just do everything I want, they're not then coaching or managing or signing guys to the reason why I hired them. So then you're kind of undermining their role, and then you're going to fire them anyway. So you want them to excel and do what they're doing. But sometimes, they do need to pull up every now and then and all that. But for the most part, you want them to back themselves and take your feedback. I'll give the feedback. You don't always have to use it. I'm not going to get offended if, hey, I don't think we should sign that guy. And you're like, I really think he's going to put us over the top. I'm then not going to say, well, we're losing because we signed that guy and he sucked. It was a mistake. You learn from it and we move on. But if you just want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, kind of like we heard from the Knicks a month or two ago, you're going to be the Knicks of the last 10 years for the next 20 years. That's just the reality of the NBA. And that's what bothers me so much in the NBA. It's like, you want a GM wants certain players played. It's like, well, you coach a team then as well.
Folks, CAA repped Thibodeau. Leon Rose knows exactly who he hired. Those guys know exactly who they hired. It's not like you sort of hired Rick Pitino out of college, when he was with the Celtics, and you didn't really know what you were going to get, because he hasn't been in the NBA a long time. This guy has been like this, and you know him. You repped him. You repped his contract. You dealt with him on a daily basis. You knew exactly what you're getting. Nobody changes in the NBA ever, Bogues. Ever. Like, Jeff Van Gundy, right? Like Mr. Joke around on the media, joke around on TV. I worked at camp with him for a week. He did not say a word to anybody for a week. That's how he is. and he's like Rodney
on TV, bro.
He's Rodney Dangerfield on TV. And then if he gets an NBA job, he's going to go right back to where he was. And that's okay, because that's who you are. That's who you are. You always revert back to who you really are in the NBA. And that's what Thibodeau is. He's a grind you out, Bill Belichick without the rings type of guy. And he's that type of guy. He's going to grind it out. He's going to try to squeeze every ounce of talent your team has. Is he great with young guys? No. Is he good with like spoiled vets that just want to be pampered? Hell no. Right? He plays to a certain type of player. His coaching style fits certain types of players, but you knew exactly who you're going to get. You hire me for the Sydney Kings. You know that if there's any pizza on the plane, I'm getting it before the fucking players do, because you know who you hire, Bogues. You know me. right? You know me. I'm not going to wear a suit. I'm going to swear my ass off. Everybody's going to laugh, and no one's going to get any food.
We don't have those. We don't have those oversized sweats though in Sydney.
Fuck it. I'm out. No, fuck that skinny jean shit. Fuck that shit. I'm out. You can offer me $8 million a year. I'm out. But like this, yeah. I'm glad he's coming back. I like Tibbs. I've always have. I think he's a good coach. I know what he is, and I know what he isn't. And it's just one of those things, man. Yeah,
it is. It is. So I think, another good offseason, some tweaks. They should be back in the playoffs, but we'll watch that space. He's starting to get a little bit better. Scoring binge last week, bro. I mean, geez, yeah. There was a scoring binge. Kyrie 41 at the half, finishes in the 60s. Cat, absolutely exploded. So 50-point weeks. Sadiq Bey. Did you see this game, Pro?
I did not see the game, but I saw him. He put up what, 50?
51. Did you see how you got it?
No.
So the Orlando Magic, the epitome of success the last 10 years, but Sadiq has 49. So what do the Orlando Magic do? They triple team him to not let him get 50.
Right.
Guess what they did when they triple teamed him?
Fouled
him. Put him in the bonus. Fouled him, put him on the line. It's like a tough one. It's look, for individual players, you got to let him. If he gets his 50 in the natural flow of the game, so be it. If it's something different, look, I was part of an interesting game. Houston versus your boy Chandler Parsons on his team. Houston versus Golden State. Do you remember this game? It was 2000.
I think I do. Go ahead.
15, and Mark Jackson was the coach, and they were like, we had a rivalry starting to brew with them, right? We had a rivalry, and it was starting to get testy, and it's good battles, and they smacked us. They absolutely smacked us in Houston. They were up by 30 in the fourth, right? And there was about 6 minutes left, and they were up by 30. And I think McHale was a coach at the time. I think he was a coach. They were close to the NBA record of threes he made in a game. He left all his starters out there, literally till the last couple of minutes. Which we all thought was pretty poor form. We're like, dude, you're smacking us. Like we had our benching at that point. Like we cleared our benches like with 7 minutes left. We're like, we're not winning this game. We're down by 35 or whatever. He keeps most of these good players in, trying to run up the score, trying to hit threes. So all they were doing the last part of the quarter was just jacking threes at all costs. They were just trying to get the record. So. I mean, some people might agree with this. Some people might not. Some people might agree with what they were doing. They might agree, like, why not go for the record? Some people might say, well, you've won the game. A player could get hurt. It's not, there's that whole don't make guys look bad that you're already smashing in the NBA, right? It's kind of like scoring in the last second to pad your stats. But anyway, so we call a timeout, and Mark Jackson goes, we're going to foul him every time down the court. I just put him on the free throw line. I think they had 2 minutes left to make one more three, I think, or a minute 50. Mm-hmm. Look up the clip. So we intentionally fouled. Basically, whoever had the ball the rest of the game. So they couldn't shoot a three. And it became this big thing, like, how dare the Warriors do this? And so disrespectful. And we're like, well, hang on a second. You guys have been, I think it was disrespectful on both sides. It was shenanigans, tomfoolery on both sides, but that's just a small example. But why I bring that up is the Sadiq Bey thing is a little bit different. It wasn't so much so that they were going at all costs when he had 30 to get him to 50, but he was close to 50. And then, they're trying to get him his 50. It's a great milestone. So I'm not sure if you agree with the discrepancies of those two stories, Pro, how you feel about it, but just a small example I thought I'd give.
Bogues, I don't know, man. Whatever. Like, just get the fuck out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a guy's going to score 50, 80, 90, you have no control what the other coach is going to do. See, I'm not the ultimate Mr. Competitor. I'm not fucking Tony Robbins or any of that shit. Like, it is what it is. If a guy's gonna fuck, fucking hammer you, they're going to hammer you. You know, do you want to get him back next time? Great, get him back next time, whatever. It's one game. There's 1,000 games in the fucking NBA. If some jerk off wants to run up a score on you or throw the ball to himself or dunk when he's down 18 and you're dribbling it out and steal it from you and dunk it, like whatever you're going to do, whatever the shenanigans is going to happen, it's going to happen. So I don't really care either way if, what happens if a coach tries to stop it, tries to propel it, whatever they try to do. I'm not really a big one. Like as a player, I'm sure you get pissed off a little bit when that stuff happens to you. I would assume Bogues, right? Like,
yeah, if stuff happens, you're facing it. Like, I think Houston were rubbing out facing it at that point. Like it was obvious, right? That gets, as a veteran, you're like, okay, guys, like you're already beaten us. We've waved the white flag.
Did you play with Bell? Did you play with Bell in Golden State?
Charlie Bell?
Not Raja? Charlie Bell, the other Bell.
Raja, no.
Not Raja, the young kid.
Nah, Bell.
What's the kid's name? Bell, the big Jordan Bell, is it? The big strong kid?
Yes.
The athletic.
He was just there a couple of seasons ago. Yeah. Is that when he's talking about the off the backboard?
Yeah, like all guys are pissed. All guys are pissed. We're going to get him. I forgot who the guy said that was going to railroad him next game. I'm like, who gives a fuck? So
what?
Like, it is what it is.
For context, give the guys, you guys are down big, right?
We're down huge, not big.
In Dallas, right?
Huge. Yeah. And I think like there was a fast break or something happened and Jordan Bell, instead of like holding it out, like slammed it off the backboard and dunked it. It's a dick move, but what are you going to do? Like you have no control over that. Just, you know what? Let's get the fuck home. Let's just get ready for the next one. If you want to get the guy back, you get him back. I don't know, Bogues. Again, I don't know. I'm just not Mr. Ultra. I'm going to get you back for that, blah, 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 and grind you out. It's just, but that's, look, I guess everybody's their own person with that. I think they're a dick for doing it. And I think that kid's a dick for doing it. But what are you going to do? He did it. Move on. Next fucking game. We got more fucking things to worry about.
Yeah, look, there's the argument as well. People say, well, if you cared so much, guard the guy that has 50 in the first minute like he did in the last minute,
Right.
That's kind of the counter argument. Or for us, like, well, guard the 3-point line from the start of the game better next time. And you're like, okay, that's fair enough too. So I understand both. But yeah, there is a bit of a respect thing. But as far as guys getting 50, by all means. All right. Before we get to the infamous Dallas Mavericks, Glenn Big Baby Davis. This guy never ceases to amaze me, this guy. He's just a barrel of laughs, bro. He's a barrel of laughs. So a couple of weeks ago, he was at a Boston game, right? And he
Garnett KG's night.
It was the funniest shit I've seen. So, when players come back, like Big Baby Davis has come back to Boston, the camera will pan to them at some point in the game. Glenn Baby Davis is in town. And I guess when they, right at the point, with unfortunate timing, they pan to Big Baby Davis, supposed to be sitting in his courtside seat. Right as it was happening, he's getting kicked out of his courtside seat because he sat in someone else's seat and his seat was like 3 rows behind it. And the poor bastard, they got it live on telecast, but on ESPN, they hear Big Baby saying, "Oh, is this your seat? Oh, my bad." having to go 3 or 4 rows behind. And you're just like, hilarious. Just the way, the timing of that cameraman. But what now is funny about that is, bro, this guy, he's on probation.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be traveling interstate. I'm not sure what state that's in, probably California. He infamously, we spoke about it, got caught for committing fraud against the NBA player health pension plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he got convicted, has probation, and they're like, man, like, what are you doing in Boston? So had to, I guess the reason why they found out, he was supposed to be on a radio show the next day, and then the radio was like, well, he hasn't contacted us, he hasn't come on the radio show, and then they did some research and found out he had to fly home for an emergency court hearing, and I assume he's got more penalties now, pro. But I mean, come on, dude, like
just some guys just don't give a fuck, and he just He wanted to see KG. That's his boy. He retired his number. That was KG's night. I think it was the Mavs game, if I'm not mistaken. That's when they lost to the Mavs. But I saw the game and I saw him getting kicked out of his seat. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I read today. That's when I sent it to you. And I guess he violated some.
I had on the run sheet anyway because I saw it.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Oh, it's just what are you doing, dude? Never change.
This guy's been like this his whole life. Like how he grew up while he was at LSU, at high school, LSU. He's always been a clown, I like Big Baby. I work with him a little bit. When he was at LSU, he came to Grover's gym to work out for a week. And he's just a funny bastard. And he's one of those guys you just look at and laugh. You just can't help yourself. But that's I don't know how much trouble he got into with that, but
it would have got
you just shake your fucking head.
Probably some extra weeks or months added on to his suspended sentence, or would have probably maybe they've ankle bracelet him for a month. Who knows? But not the biggest crime in the world. It's just hilarious that he ratted himself out by. Not only that, if you're going to breach probation, don't sit near the court. How about that? Like just get a nice lower bowl seat where you're mixing in with everybody else. This guy had to be seen. But yeah, he's a crazy character.
Phenomenal.
I can attest to that. I mean, back in my younger days when I used to go to the clubs and the bars on the road, sometimes we'd see him out because sometimes teams cross paths on the road. You see him out in a nightclub by himself, shirt off, middle of the dance floor, in a circle, dancing with people around him, like, hey, and he's got his shirt off above his head, waving it around, like, just really fun, loving guy, good personality from what I heard to be around. He's a fun guy, but wild guy, like most head coaches at some point would go crazy with him. But funny story. Anyway, okay, the Dallas Mavericks, pro. Your Dallas Mavericks. Not my Dallas Mavericks, your Dallas Mavericks. A lawsuit has come out. Donnie Nelson versus Mark Cuban versus Mr. Jason Luton, a name we don't hear very often, but Mark Cuban's right-hand man. Now, there's court documents. We're not going to get into them too much that have gone both ways. Donnie's claims, and then the countersuit now of Cuban and Luton protecting themselves, and then their counterclaims. They're all online and public as per US law. The court records are all public. Wow, there's a lot in there. Donnie Nelson, basically the short story is Donnie Nelson has alleged that he introduced, was it his nephew, pro?
Nephew.
His nephew a while ago to Jason Luton. Jason Luton had espoused some predatory behavior. Now this is Donnie Nelson's words, not mine, or Pro's. But Jason Luton hit on his nephew, predatory behavior. At the time, Donnie Nelson was negotiating a contract extension with the Mavs. I believe he was offered somewhere in the realm of $66 million over a number of years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, however long it was. Donnie Nelson had countered. Takes big balls to do this, pro, in itself. He counted and wanted $77 million over 7, I guess, or whatever it was. So that negotiation was happening. Donnie Nelson claims he then reported the Jason Luton / Donnie Nelson nephew altercation or whatever happened, not altercation, potential sexual assault to Mark Cuban, and that's why his contract offer stalled and went out of the window. There's a few other things in there. There's claims that Jason Luton covers for some of Mark Cuban's indiscretions and blah, 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 blah. It's pretty messy. The counterclaim basically reads that Cuban saying that Donnie Nelson was inept in his job, was unprofessional, was trying to, spruik and get investments for numerous other businesses while working at an NBA club through other NBA players and coaches and staff, and just was unprofessional, and that's the reason why I didn't extend his contract. But it's, look, the truth's probably few and far between. Who knows which side it's on with this, but Pro, this is starting to become a bit of an issue for the Mavs. That they constantly have these things pop up. I know you were there. I was there for a small stopover. But at some point, I'm not saying Donnie's right, and I'm not saying Cuban and Luton are right. Where there's smoke, there's fire. This can't, these stories continue to come out. Something's not right there culturally that needs to be fixed and spoken about. And by all means, Cuban could be 100% in the right here. But the fact this stuff keeps coming out has to be a concern, bro. It's
an embarrassment to the organization, and it's an embarrassment to the league for sure. I mean, regardless of what's happening, how it's happening, it's an embarrassment. And you gotta, but like, I mean, if these things are coming up against Cuban, he has to defend himself and do what have you with the lawsuits and things. But it's, you read that and you're like, oh wow, what the fuck? And then you read the counter suit, and it's just like, these guys have been together for like 20 years.
Exactly.
20 years. And it's like, look, I'm not a Jason Luton fan. It's got nothing to do with the lawsuit, the case. The court of law is going to decide what happens on that. I'm not a fan of the guy. He had a lot to do with me getting fired. And so I don't have a lot of love for the guy, but, it's not great for him to have his name in lights. This is not the time you want your name in lights. And, he's a big part of that organization. So you just don't want to see that. You don't want to read it continuously that's what happened. Like what I thought was strange was on the countersuit was with the side businesses, right? Like, yeah, Donnie's a businessman. He owns businesses for sure. But like leadership 101, if that's a problem year 5, year 9, year 15, why not say it's either one or another? You know what I'm saying? It's not like one or the other, but now it comes up and it comes in. It comes back at you. This is a great lesson for anybody who works in any organization. Do not accept favors from anybody in your work, because like if they go, hey, Bogues, don't worry about it. You're good. Yeah, I know you were late last week, 5 minutes. You're good. Yeah, I won't say anything. You're fine. Until you're at a fucking court of law and you read it in paper, fucking Bogues is late. This day. Do not accept any favors. Like if they say don't worry about it, fucking worry about it.
Go and dub yourself. Go and tell yourself.
Yeah, everybody's taking notes on everybody. Everybody's taking notes on everybody. Like you read Donnie's claims and then you read their claims and they did this and they did this and they did this. I'm like, well, if they did this, why not just bring it up? Like, why not say this is a problem? We can't have it, and that's where, look, whatever happened at that hotel room or didn't happen. Okay. They're going to deal with that. Right. But like the other stuff, all these other problems you have with one side or another, why can't you get in a room when it's happening and clean it up? And instead of like letting it get to court, and now it's like they're Mr. Bad Guy for doing this or Mr. Bad Guy for doing that. I'm not defending either side. Like, I don't know. I don't speak on things that I don't know. The court's going to decide it, but it's just embarrassing to deal with that. And look, if I'm Cuban, if I'm Mark, from now on, like, look, they've got Nico in there and J Kid. They weren't a part of any of this. So it's like they're sort of in their positions. But like the whole organization, there has to be checks and balances. Like, this is why feedback's always good and getting it in writing. You're doing a good job. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. You need to change this in a certain amount of time or I got to get rid of you. And everything's got to be, it can't be, no, we're going to let it go. We're going to let it go. And then it becomes a huge problem. But my thing is, they would have never sued the guy and countersued if he didn't sue in the first place. So I don't think they were going to bring this up anyway. I think they were just defending themselves. But, to me, it's just like, I don't like when you have a problem with me and then it takes me getting fired or bringing you to court for you to bring this other stuff up. It's got nothing to do with the case.
It's like a divorce.
Yeah. And plus, 72 fucking million. I asked for 200 grand and they told me to fuck off. Now I feel a little slighted. 200 grand I was asking for, folks. They told me to go fuck myself. And that's, I feel, I'm like, come on, man. 200 grand, this guy is getting 72
give it to Donnie. That's why. That's a save it for Donnie, man.
Well, I was asking for 280 to get to 200. And then, they didn't even see the second day of it. Like I said, yeah, I'll take 280 for 5. And all I wanted was 200, but you have to start high with them. And they told me to fuck off with that. They didn't even come to the second number. And I had to go home and try to explain that one to my wife. But yeah, Bogues, it's sad to see because those guys were close for a long time, but everything ends badly. Tom Cruise said it in the movie Cocktails, everything ends badly or wouldn't end. And it's the truth. Like everything ends badly in a bad divorce. Not necessarily this bad, but this is bad. Like you have countersuits and suits and that fucking, I'll tell you what, that court case is going to be like the series finale for Seinfeld when they brought those guys to court. It's going to be a shit show if it goes to court.
That's a fair point, actually. That is a fair point.
Yeah.
But all kinds of, oh my goodness. Yeah, because there is some bodies laying around Dallas. I can tell you that. I heard small little rumblings while I was there, and there are some bodies floating around that place. So, geez, you are absolutely right. There's going to be a long line of people that probably want to get a side suit on with Donnies or Cubans, vice versa, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look, it's ugly, man. It hurts your soul when you read that shit. Like we're in the NBA. It's not. This isn't like a divorce. Like a bad War of the Roses, a divorce here. These are people who work together. But look, sexual whatever isn't something to joke around about. If you bring in that up, it's not like you fight. Like if he just brought up a court case, you fired me for no reason. That's one thing. But he brought this thing up, and this is not anything to joke about. If it did in fact happen, who knows if it did or didn't? I'm not saying anything on either side of it, but it's crazy that these guys were so close for so long, and now they're just sort of mortal enemies, and they're gonna end life like this.
Yeah, it also reads like
it's weird.
It also reads like if Donnie would have got his contract, the sexual assault didn't matter, right?
If it did in fact happen, but who knows? I mean.
Like, but you get my point.
Yeah,
it's like the sexual assault matters when there's an amount of money involved. But if you give me this amount of money, I won't say another word about it. So, if it did happen, right? So, there is that part of it as well, which is disappointing. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, smoke and fire, Dallas. Like they got to clean their shit up, man. There are constantly something going on there. They've tried to clean it up and it just continues to rear its ugly head. Like hopefully this is the last remnants of it, and Cuban's obviously learned his lesson, moving on and trying to clean things up. But it will continue. It's going to be fun to watch. It will be a popcorn-worthy trial. You might need to go down for that one in person, Pro, for the podcast, live potted or something. Due
to certain enemies I have, I might get hit with a drone shot if I try to get out of my car in that area. So I'm gonna watch it on TV like everybody else.
Send one of your old ball boys.
No, there's about 27 of those out there for me. But it's funny, like shit. I've never been in a like. Look at me, you know me. I swear a lot. Like I try to joke around a little bit. I'm not all that professional sometimes, but like I'm never in scandal. Like that, I'm not the furthest thing from it. I go to my hotel room. The most scandalous thing I'm going to do is order 3 pizzas to the face. In a $300 fucking charge at the hotel. But like that's just crazy to me, man. It's just crazy that they can't stay out of it. I just hope this is a good organization, man. They won a championship. They put money into it. Things are looking great. They're the hottest team one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. And now this shit happens. It's they just gotta. I don't know, man. It's
they gotta
not
fix
fun.
It. It should be hopefully the last we hear about some scandals once this court case is over. Like I said, hopefully this is it. We don't want to hear anything else. Dallas Mavericks should not have another, potential sexual assault, whatever, scandal, dodgy business. I don't want to hear anything for 20, 30 years from them. They've had their fair share.
Yeah. If this teaches anybody that's listening to this or reading about the court case, anything is you use nothing but burner phones. You have 9 shredders that shreds every document. Assume that everybody's recording every word that you say and filming you doing everything that you do. And because this is crazy, and it will come up. If you ever try a lawsuit, they will, somebody will have something written down on you. the dossier that was kept is it was ridiculous. But yeah, let's move on, man. Yeah. Let's move on.
NBL, baby. Sydney Kings, as we said, 8 straight games. I was at the game last night. We were a little bit short-handed without Xavier Cooks, who would generally be a big part of that battle with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and trying to stop Mitch Creek. But the Sydney Kings played it was a really good game of basketball, first and foremost. Outside of being a Kings owner and being biased, it was back and forth. We had a lead, they took the lead, there were jabs back and forth, and it was close the whole game. It's what you want a basketball game to be. So I think that everyone at that game enjoyed the game, even though the home fans didn't get the win. I thought from a basketball spectacle, that's what an NBL game should look like. But big win by 2. But some even bigger news, Pro, is the Sydney Kings have welcomed Robin Denholm from Wallamai Capital Group and her family. Her son and daughter are going to be involved as well with the club as official owners of the Sydney Kings, alongside myself and Paul Smith. Now, she does not like people mentioning this too much, but it is a huge get in the business world for people that are not familiar with Robin. I suggest you Google her prowess. One of the best business minds, not only Australia but the world. Current chair of Tesla Global. So no small, wig by any means. Very, very astute business-wise. I mean, obviously, Robin and her family will be investing money to come on board, but what she brings with her business acumen and her network and just her mind for growing businesses is second to none. So we're really, really excited. I was fortunate enough to go and meet with her on Friday with Larry Kesselman in the NBL, myself, Paul Smith, and just had a little chinwag and introduced each other, or introduced Robin and her family to Larry in the NBL, get a feel, and then they came to their first road game as owners. So that is sensational. It is absolutely huge for not only the Sydney Kings but the NBL. So for people that don't understand the scope of this is a heavy hitter. This isn't a person that's getting involved in this club because it's I want to have Sydney Kings on my resume. I want to be able to go take some clients. Like, she wants to get the game better. She'll be heavily involved with the Sydney Kings and the Sydney Flames, a WNBL team. But great get for the Sydney Kings, Pro, and I think it's a great step in the right direction for the Kings and the NBL. And I can tell you, she's gonna hold myself accountable. She's gonna hold Paul Smith accountable in the way we run the club. She's gonna hold our coaches and the NBL. She's happy to put her 2 cents in on organizational type things if she has suggestions. So I think you'd be silly not to listen to a person like that, Pro. But big welcome there.
Yeah, I mean, with just her resume alone, with the stops that she's had and sort of how she does businesses, it'll open up a ton of doors for you guys. It's always looking for, obviously great investors, financially, but the other doors that she could open up and sort of the wisdom that she could have from her stops over and being so successful in business like she is great for the club. It makes everybody sort of, want to be a little bit more professional just being around her and just having that injected into the organization. That's great, man. Congrats. That'll be a great hit. That'll be great not only for the team, but I think it'll be great for the league as well.
100% credibility, instant credibility with someone like this who's in some meetings with the finest business minds in the world. I mean, Elon Musk, for instance. I think having her 2 cents is going to be worth more than 2 cents. So very big welcome there. The win yesterday was also a very big, Pro, because the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and the Kings and Illawarra are all kind of in the same realm on the ladder, 3-4-5 at the moment. And it was a double points win essentially because it was a head-to-head. So they got a loss, we got a win. So it was very, very big. It knocked them down to 5th. Southeast Melbourne are now out of the 4 in 5th. And then, you've got Perth, Melbourne, Perth, us and Illawarra still in the 4, so it's going to be a very, very close race. So watch that space. But your Jack Jumpers again, we're going to talk to them real quick. A little bit of argy-bargy last night, Pro. You actually saw this, which means you're following some of the NBL stuff, which is great. But we saw a highlight of it because their game was before our game, and we couldn't really get any context, but found out. So what had happened was, you've seen Scott Roth and his. Do you know what happened? What led to this?
Well, he does the whole screaming thing, right, to the fans at one game or a couple games that after the game, he just sort of like turns to his fans and just sort of, screams at him or something.
Yep. Yeah, look, it's been noted that, Scott Roth has been away from family. He hasn't seen his wife. I believe he has children too. Hasn't seen his family in almost, I think, over a year with everything going on. Kind of been recluse in Tasmania, just focused on basketball, new franchise, all the pressure of that, trying to get them on the right track. So after a few big wins, most notably the Illawarra Hawks a couple of weeks ago, there's been 2 or 3 wins where he's beat teams that they're not supposed to beat, and he's just gone berserk to the crowd, pumping them up, running around the court on their home fans and thanking them all, pounding his chest and saying thank you all for coming and just, real passionate stuff. And I don't think it was ever to a point to try to disrespect the other team. I think it was actually respectful of the other team if you really think about it, because it was showing that he's so pumped for that win because they're not supposed. They know they're not supposed to be really on paper battling, but he's got his guys playing at such a good level that they're battling with good teams that Illawarra's picked the championship favourites. So anyway, Illawarra and Tasmania played last night, and I guess Illawarra beat the living suitcase out of the Jack Jumpers 20-30 point win. Antonius Cleveland, it's reported that he went in the front of the Tasmanian bench towards the end of the game with seconds ticking down and did the Scott Roth in front of Scott Roth. And Scott Roth did not take too lightly to it. So they, in Australia, bro, you have to shake hands after the game, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It can cause problems at times. There's been suspensions from shit happening in those handshake lines.
Sure.
And Scott Roth was livid. He was going at him. He was trying to get to him. He was saying it was disrespectful. And I guess Cleveland was like, "What you did to us a couple of weeks ago." So there's a little rivalry building there. But Roth went a bit crazy. It'd be interesting to see what the league does, whether they find the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, which would be finding themselves because the league still owns the Jack Jumpers. so
that's very good.
Well, they are obviously trying to build the club up and sell it, but they do own the Jack Jumpers as of current. So, but it will be interesting to see if Scott Roth does get a little whack out of the checkbook. But it is interesting. I'm not sure how you feel about it. It feels like Cleveland was definitely trolling back and trying to say, like, if you're going to do it to us, we'll do it to you. But I don't think the initial Scott Roth doing it the last month or so was so much as being disrespectful to the other team, more just letting go of that emotion of everything that he's probably gone through the last year, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you can't expect players to be professional these days. Let's be honest. Not all of them anyway. And it's, I don't know. You just open yourself, like everything that you do out in the open opens yourself up for it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. You're open up for ridicule and someone to make fun of you. And that's just the way it is. People do it because they're addicted to tomfoolery. Some people do it to show you up. Some people do it just because they know they're going to be on social media doing it and it's going to be a story. Some people do it for all those reasons, combined. So yeah, it's just something you have to deal with in 2022. You got to deal with people just wanting to troll you on everything that you do. And look, we know why he does it and he screams and does that. But look, you do it. I don't care what your intention is. You open yourself up for it. And so in my opinion, anything that you do today, you just got to get ready for some level of, ridicule, somebody copying you, put like anything. It might be fun, it might just be fun and two people, laughing at each other, or it could be, a little cynical. And that's just the way we live. And that's what he has to expect. The loss probably didn't help and all that stuff, but I don't know. Hey, look, I'm never going to tell somebody how to feel. If he gets pissed and he wants to fucking knock the guy out, so be it. Do what you got to do. But you just have to, that's just what it is, in my opinion. But yeah, it's never a dull moment, man.
Yeah, no, it is. A bit of passion's good. I don't mind it. You just don't want, there was a series a number of years ago, Melbourne versus Adelaide, where there was in the handshakes, I think this is stupid. I think in a playoff series, you should not shake hands after the game. You should shake hands at the end of the series for obvious reasons. And the obvious reason is this: Melbourne versus Adelaide 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was Sobey and someone else got into a little scuffle and there was a headbutt. Players got suspended for the next game. And it cost Adelaide this. Melbourne won the series, probably fair and square, but it could It could have changed. So he was one of their best players. It could have changed the direction of the series. So that's an example as to why in a playoff series it gets very heated. You're playing a 3-game series, 1-1-1. I think shaking of the hand should be at the end just to stop any of this happening. But in a regular season game, shaking hands is fine. But I think Scott Roth probably also needs to tone it back a little bit being a head coach. But he is a passionate guy. He did feel disrespected. And, he wears his heart on his sleeve. So I just wonder if he'll cop a little fine for it or not. We'll see. All right, stats, useful and useless, pro. The Chicago Bulls, told you I'd bring them up again. 2-16 versus teams with a better record than them this season, pro. Useful or useless?
Ooh, that's useful, man. It tells you a lot. It tells you a hell of a lot. And I didn't know that what the record was. And like I said, that tells me what type of team you are. Can you really do it well against the teams below you? Can you dominate teams below you? Can you beat the hell out of teams in your own area? And how do you play against the top tier teams that are better than you, and especially up top? And 2-16 is not cutting it. Now I don't know how many of that 2-16 was against, while they were hurt. I don't know, and I don't care. 2-16 is not cutting it, and it says a lot about you. So I say definitely useful on that. Yeah,
useful for sure. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, the formula usually is if you can win 75% of the games that you're supposed to win. So teams that are below you, and if you go 500 with teams that are above you or in your realm, you're going to be a pretty good seed. That's generally the formula. You're going to be a top 4. You should get home court. 2-16 is not cutting it. Like injuries or not, I don't give a shit. 2-16, and don't forget they're in 5th now. So there's a fair few teams that are above them record wise. It's not like they were in 2nd and you're saying, or 3rd, and you're saying, oh, yeah, you haven't beaten Phoenix ever, or well, no one has.
StatMuse?
I think that one was StatMuse. Yeah, StatMuse are great. Shout out to them.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good. All right. I'm going to quiz you a little bit. Don't look at the answers, pro. There are 3 teams that are in the top 10 in both O and D. Who are they, pro? Top 3 teams.
Let me see. I would say Phoenix, Boston, Miami?
2 out of 3. Good job, man. Phoenix, Miami, and the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh, no shit. The Memphis Grizzlies, really?
Yeah, they're top 10 in O and D, so it doesn't happen a lot. We've got 3 teams doing it this season, but usually it's a pretty good formula to get you somewhere up the top of the ladder, and it's equated to that. So Phoenix first, Miami first, and Memphis, I think they're 3rd or 4th at the moment. So, pretty impressive. Very, very useful stat, but they're both rolling, which is great.
Pretty useful if you can get up there on both ends of the floor. Usually it's just one end, and you dominate one end, and then the other end you're just okay, or what have you. But I mean, to be able to do it on both ends, offense and defense, it says a lot about where you're going. And think about it, like Phoenix is on top. Phoenix is on top of the West. Memphis is right there. Miami's right there in the East. So yeah, it's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool stat. That's pretty useful.
All right, before last game, when he hit the game tire, Russell Westbrook, since All-Star break, was shooting 9% from the 3, pro. Useful, useless?
Pretty fucking useful to compare to how he's shooting it this year. I mean, it's just, look, there's nothing going right for that team, and he's had a bad year. It's not all his fault. It's not all their fault. It's just a combination of a lot of things. But it's pretty useful. I mean, every other day you see, multiple clips of him hitting the side of the backboard on shots. And it's just, he's not in a good place. I don't care what he says. I don't care how, what he says to how it's not hurting him and it's not affecting him or impacting him. It's definitely hurting him and impacting him. You could definitely tell that. So
100%.
It's definitely, in my opinion, definitely something that's useful, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it is affecting him mentally, because he's even when he's wide open and wants to shoot it, he's second guessing it. And then as soon as you second guess it, you might as well not shoot it. Might as well pass it on and get it on. And 9% is just not going to cut it. And I think it's a little bit better now. He's probably got up to 13, 14%. He hit a couple last game, but they're going to need him to fire to get out of that playing game if they've got any hope, which we both don't think they will. All right, Harden and Embiid in a 7-game stretch about 3 or 4 days ago, that ended 3 or 4 days ago. had more total free throws in that 7-game stretch than their opponents combined, Pro. 178 to 177 free throws. That includes the other team's bench. Useful or useless?
It's pretty useful. Just how these guys get to the line. You were the one who said it. I mean, you said it right when they got hot in the trade that you better get a Snickers bar. You're gonna be there for a while because those guys are gonna get to the free throw line, and it's unbelievable, man. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. 178 to 177. That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, 2 guys. So you just watch 2 guys shoot, dart practice for, 5 minutes a game each. You're just like, it's just, and we've spoken about the rules have slowly started to go back to old, and they're letting those guys get back to the line. So definitely useful. And yeah, I wonder if it'll stay that way in the playoffs. Last one, Pro. Jock Landale becomes the first San Antonio Spur to score 25 or more while shooting 80% from the floor since David Robinson in 1989. Jock Landale recently, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 12 of 15 from the field for good old Jock. Useful or useless?
Well, since he fucking doesn't come on our show anymore, it's useless as fuck. He could, I'd rather Melvin Robinson than fucking this guy. But no, it's useful. It's pretty. It just goes to show the guy stays ready and he makes the most out of his opportunity. 25 on 80% shooting. That's pretty impressive. So
and as a thank you for that great performance, do you know what he got the next night, Pro?
A bottle of wine?
A DMP.
Oh, nice.
From our friend.
Nice.
Pop. From our friend Pop. Yeah. Has a night like that, and then great job. We'll see you in 3 games. I'm scratching my head. I'm still scratching my head.
You think if we cancel the podcast, that Pop will like start the guy?
Hashtag free Jock Landale. Come on, Pop. Get it done. But yeah, I mean, he's got to get in the game the next game, surely. 26 and 7 at 80%. Doesn't get in the next game, Pop. What are you doing, man? I know you paid Zach Collins all that money, but I'm
sending Wandale a cake in the locker room with a file in it.
Yeah. Might as well get out of there. All right, what do you got?
All right, Bogues. Remember, we're team-oriented, and look, we haven't had much love at all, unless it was our team of the week for Detroit this year. So we're gonna give. This is a Detroit. We're gonna revolve the fact or fake news around Detroit. Pistons. 5 years from now, Detroit will be in a better direction than the Portland Trail Blazers. So basically, there'll be just a better team, record-wise, talent-wise, star-wise, going forward 5 years from now. Now, don't worry about the town now, the city. We know we're not really fans of Detroit as a city over Portland, but I'm talking about the team.
Yeah, they're both not great. I think Detroit.
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you out a little bit. I'm going to give you sort of where each team is with like young guys. So Portland. Okay. So Portland's roster. All right. We've got Portland's roster in the depth chart. So Lillard's probably going to be gone one way or another 5 years from now. Right. So they got Simmons. 17. He's averaging 17 and 4.
He's their guy,
they got Nurkic.
He'd be their guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So yeah, and not counting the draft picks and stuff that they get, but like him, Nurkic, 15 and 11. I mean, that's basically all they have, going forward. They don't really have a lot of good young players after that. Now, look, they've got Lillard. They've got Josh Hart. I guess he's averaging 19 and 5 since he's been back and since he got there. So basically, your 3 guys are Simons, Hart, Nurkic. Think about the cap room they'll have. Lillard's probably he'll be making about $112 million on his new max deal, either there or somebody else. But 5 years from now, like players, destination, what they have now, that's what they're going to have. Now, Detroit Pistons. Let me go to them. All right. So now you get their big guys are Cade Cunningham, of course, top pick, 16 and 6 right now. Sadiq Bey, 16 and 6. They got Jeremy Grant, which will probably be gone, but still a young player, 19. Isaiah Stewart's decent. And now they're going to have a slew of picks because they're one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to have a pretty good pick. They'll probably have multiple very good picks going forward. So let's just say 3 years from now. I think 3 years from now.
I think fact either way. I like Cade Cunningham. I like building around him. I like that idea. I think he's going to be a very good player. I think he's got all the tools to be the leader of that franchise for a long, long time, and they can build around him. Bay, a good piece next to him. Bagley, the jury's out. I mean, he's starting to show a little bit more, getting some minutes. I mean, I don't mind. Grant's still there, right? Jeremy Grant?
Jeremy Grant's still there, yep. 19-4.
I think he's been solid. They paid him a fair bit, but I think he's been solid for him. They're going to have a shitload of picks, but I like that. I like the Cunningham piece over the Simons piece. I think Simons probably putting up better numbers, but Cunningham, I think his growth's going to be much more immense. The Lillard thing, I mean, who knows where that goes, but I think 5 years, even 3, I think I'd go Detroit Pistons. So I'd say, and they're in the East, so I think it's a little bit easier on that side of things at the moment. So I will say fact.
Yeah, I say fact as well. I don't like Portland where they're going. I mean, it doesn't matter what they do with Lillard or not. It's just like, they're not going to have, they'll have right now, like Bledsoe for this year, they're obviously where they are, they can get off a lot of salary next year. Like Bledsoe's got one more year at 19.4, but they partially guaranteed his deal to 3.9. So they could save $15 million there. And then they got Josh Hart on a non-guaranteed deal. So they could literally right there cut off of about $30 million of cap. And then they only have about 4 or 5 guys left on the books after that. So they've got legitimate cap room for next year, depending on what they're going to do with Lillard and his extension or not. So they can get guys. The problem is nobody wants to go to a team that's not winning. And that's the thing. They're not winning. They have no direction right now. It's like, well, I don't want to say any Titanic references. I think I've said enough for the year, but they're just shedding weight. They're shedding salary. They're shedding players. So they really, I think they'll have a limited time, chance of getting better. Where the Detroit Pistons, look, they're not perfect either, but they got Cade Cunningham, who's an all-star player. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think he can get into the top 5 or even the top 10, but he could be one of those guys that could be an all-star somewhere from he can be 11 to 30, consistently year in and year out. Sadiq Bey has been a really good young player. Marvin Bagley is what he is. I think this is what he is. 13-7. That's what he can give you. He's not a bum by any stretch of the imagination. He's just not a guy that you could just run everything through. He's a solid player, and I think he could be. If I'm them, I'm trying to sign him just sort of a long-term, pretty good deal. And then you get all these draft picks and things. I think Detroit will definitely have a better future right now. They need a point guard. Killian Hayes is just okay. He's averaging 6 and 4. And Corey Joseph is just a journeyman, sort of off the bench guy, averaging 8 and 3. So they've definitely got to upgrade the point guard position, in my opinion. And then, but they got some good pieces. I do think that, and they got a bunch of drafts that they'll do well in. So I say it's fact as well. All right, Bogues. Cade Cunningham, you spoke of. You like him. I like him. He's a good young player. And now you could plead the fifth. You could plead the fifth on this if you don't want to incriminate yourself for your Golden State faithful. But right now, better young prospect, Cade Cunningham or Jonathan Kuminga?
Kuminga. Oh, sorry, no, Cunningham. Ooh. Cunningham. Sorry. Cunningham. I think Cunningham. Yeah. I think Cunningham, and I like Kuminga a lot. I think he's probably more athletic, would you say? He's really, really. He's that, very much. He's that strong, bouncy, just like a trampoline. But I think Cade Cunningham's going to develop better individually because he's going to have a chance to play through the ups and downs of Detroit being shit. I think what hurts Kuminga's development to an extent is he's not going to have that same opportunity as Cade, not for at least a year or two, right? If Golden State eventually start going more towards a younger team or a rebuild, that's probably at least a couple of years away with Steph and Clay on that roster and Draymond. Cade Cunningham's going to, what I argue with Josh Giddey, he's going to be able to play through his mistakes, and that's going to be invaluable to Cade Cunningham. So I think that'll help to his prospects. So I'll go Cade Cunningham over Kuminga as of today.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere where Kerr called him was it another Greek freak or another Durant or something like that? I mean, you know how the coaches like to pump up their guys and stuff. But I agree with you. I think he will be. I think it's fact. I like Cade as far as how the game's played today. Shot making. I mean, he's not at the 3-point line yet. Like I think he shoots like 33. But he's skilled. He's got a really high basketball IQ. He plays the game at a good change in speeds. He can score on and off the ball. He's a good player, not a great athlete. He's a good athlete. Nothing like Kuminga. Kuminga's an unbelievable athlete. Could run the floor, good activity, and all that. I just, like you said, I think when you're allowed to play through mistakes and they're going to put the ball in your hands consistently, I think it's going to be really. I think it's going to be you're a tough player to stop, and especially if they coach you the right way and, they allow you to play through the mistakes. You coach you through the mistakes. I think that, I think it's a really good thing. I think he's going to be better than Kuminga. To me, Kuminga is like activity. He could run, he can cut, he could, finish above the rim. I just don't like him in the half court when he's got to make a play. Like he could Greek freak you to death and back you down and try to like score off, off his like just jumping over you. He could probably do that. But, I just don't think he's really an efficient player. He'll get better at it for sure. But I'm just as far as comparing him to Cunningham, I just think Cunningham right now and having a better shot, more skill, higher basketball IQ, I think it's I think I would take my prospects with him over him.
Really, I'll say something, bro. If you flip the two, you put Kuminga on Detroit's current roster and let him play a la my argument of through all his mistakes, 40 minutes a night, you do you, and you put Cunningham with Golden State where, he makes a few mistakes and he's playing 18 minutes a night, would you have the same answer?
I think it would be a lot closer.
Yeah, so do I.
I think I still take Cunningham. Look, there aren't many guys that really up their shooting considerably when they get to the league. Like if you're not a good shooter, you're not a good shooter. Now, when you do get better, there are players that have gotten better. Look, we could name a bunch of them. Most of them come from like San Antonio, and Dorian Finney-Smith has got, he went from like a 29 to like a 38. There are a bunch of guys that do get better when they get in the league. But in Kuminga never really went to college or anything like that. So like all he did was D League, G League, and what have you. So that's a little bit different. But guy shoots like 69 from the line, not bad. 33 from the three. I mean, actually, statistically, he shoots a little bit better. But I've watched Cunningham a lot in college. I've watched him a bunch now that he's been playing, last 6 weeks or so. I just like him. I think he's got a higher IQ for the game, and I think he just sort of plays at a better sort of speed than Kuminga. Like he slows the game down. He could sort of process things. Now Kuminga, like I said, he's got this high upside with his athletic ability, which he can do a lot with. But it'll be it'll be interesting going forward. I look forward to seeing Kuminga. Maybe he'll make us both wrong, and he'll see what happens with his development and things. They're going to need him to play, which is good. So
yeah, we'll see.
I think. Yeah, next couple of years he'll up his minutes. All right, last thing. Detroit Pistons are a playoff team, top 8 in 4 years. A top 8 playoff, not a play-in 9-10, but can get into that at least 7-8 game in 4 years from now.
Oh, surely they get in one. Top 8.
Yeah.
I'd say fact.
Yeah.
Surely they get in one, like year 3, 4 maybe. They got to sneak into one. You never know. They could be the Sacramento Kings of the East. But yeah, I think they'd sneak into one. There's some teams, there's some other teams out east that are starting to age. Brooklyn, looking at them, looking at Miami to an extent, starting to get a bit older. So there are some teams that are definitely getting older out there. But the East is, Chicago is going to be probably, top 4 or 5 for another couple of years. They've got some youth, but I think they will. I'll say fact.
I say as well. I hate agreeing with all three, so we agree. But like I do agree with that. I think that going forward, like I said, they've got all these young guys that we've been talking about. They picked up. I like the Bagley pickup. They're going to have these picks. It'll be interesting. Like, what do you want in your roster? Do you would you rather be Detroit right now and their flexibility with young players and things, or would you rather be like Indiana that has better players across the board? No doubt about it. But like.
Still suck.
Yeah, yeah, you're not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these guys don't really carry the mail.
The rock bottom out can have its pros and cons, because you can rock bottom out and then have a bunch of young guys that winning is not important. We're just developing. I think OKC probably does it right. They still value win. They're still trying to instill winning. But some teams, when they overly tank and they're just like, oh, we're building, we're young, it's okay if we lose now, that can become a habit. You know, that can become a habit in a player's psyche at a young age, and that can influence the way they play and the way they think. And it's just one game, who cares? We'll be good in 5 years. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, but yeah, I think some teams do it right, some teams do it wrong, some teams are lucky as shit. You know, they draft the right guy. You know, Memphis, Ja Morant. No one would have saw that leap this quickly, right? And they got lucky. I mean, they'll tell us they did. We knew about it. That's why he was our guy on the draft board. Yeah, I'm sure you realize he knew that good this quickly. But that's a lot of it is to do with luck. A lot of it is to do with the right guys in the locker room, the right veterans, the right fall of a ping pong ball. And sometimes we think we overvalue what a GM or a coach can bring, when sometimes you just need the talent and the luck, and it works out for you. Now those other factors do help, but we need to realize that sometimes it can be up to the basketball gods, bro. Yeah,
I agree with that. Look, a lot of this shit is luck. Like, what's Popovich if he doesn't get luck in 97? No offense, but come on. Exactly. Like, if you don't get Duncan in 97, and, you know, I mean, there's a lot of luck that goes through. What if Milwaukee wakes up out of this slumber and says, you know what, we're not going to get, you know, we're not going to keep track, or we're going to not keep track of Trillo. We're going to take Dirk Nowitzki. We don't want, you know, we're not going to do that trade. Like, what happens to Dallas? You know, Boston. You know, what happens at Boston if they don't take Paul Pierce and they take somebody else? Like there's a lot of things that go through that you need a lot of luck. You know, we talked about injury in series before. We talk about players, but the draft stuff is very important with that. Like, you can luck out and get a great coach. Who cares if you don't have the talent and, you know, talent and flexibility and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of shit show luck that happens in this league. And it's just, you just got to keep your head above water until you can get some. And if you don't, and you're irrational about things, about, you know, trades that you make and acquiring players and taking chances when you don't really have to, and you're like, you know what, let's just chill. We're good. Let's just keep on developing. Let's just keep on evaluating the draft and keep on hitting it like that. You'll be good. But if you keep on just saying, nah, we'll throw this injured, you know, we didn't get this max player. We didn't get Greek Freak, but we're going to draft. We're going to give this guy $128 million because, you know, he puts up good numbers, but he's got 2 bad knees. Who cares? And just because we need the fans to come in and we need to win the press conference on July 8th, like, no, fuck that. Like, if, you know, you stick to a plan. That's the problem with the NBA, Bogues. You know this. Like, everyone has this plan. You know, everybody like meets in this office. Everything's on laminated sheets. We're going to do this, and this is what we're going to be about. This is what we're going to be about. A couple of injuries, a couple of game losing streaks. You're trading everybody. Developments through the fucking, you know, out the window. You know, we're just going to do this. We're going to grab this guy and this guy. And then you're sitting there like, wait a minute, what about this plan that we had on August 15th coming into the season? Like, we knew exactly what we were going to do. We hit one fucking road bump instead of being like, no, we're good. Keep to the plan. We're fine. Everybody's got to go crazy and you fuck yourself. You know, you just fuck the team and the organization going forward. So you need a lot of luck in this stuff. You just got to like chill, do everything else right, wait for it, take your lumps. You'll be good. But not a lot of teams know how to do that, man. A lot of teams just they read all these John Gordon books and they say all the right things, and then they have a little bit of adversity and boom, they just panic like crazy. Patience is virtue, pro. Not in pro sports, it ain't. But that wraps up episode 58. Thanks everyone for joining us at Rogue Bogues. Let us know, give us your feedback at Hoop Consultants for Pro, and we will catch you all next week. Thanks.